Alrighty, welcome back, everyone. We just talked about Ohio State and how Urban Meyer and Jim Tressel had some very, very nice things to say about the talent on this roster, and I don't necessarily disagree with them too much. There's definitely some argument to be had, but it's ridiculous the talent that is on that roster this year. But let's jump into some two-way players. This is a huge year for two-way players, it seems, with a lot of guys kind of eyeing that direction. Travis Hunter was obviously last year a really special player to watch. He was a guy that could pick someone off on defense and then flip right around, have 4 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown drive on the next one. So it's just insane what he was able to do, and it sounds like it's spreading just a little bit. There have been some people that have made their intentions known, or at least their desire known, to play both ways, and Caleb Downs is the most recent one. He was one of the biggest transfers of this past cycle. Going from Alabama to Ohio State was definitely a huge pickup for the Buckeyes, and he was going to play safety. He likely is going to play safety, but he wants to play running back, it sounds. It sounds like that was part of his recruitment when he was coming in was, we'll give you that opportunity, and he wanted to do it. He had, I think, about 600 yards rushing his senior year of high school. Obviously, you don't want to put a guy like that in too much danger his senior year, but the reality is the athleticism is there. There's no two ways about that. Will Johnson was the other guy that we had talked about possibly trying to do this. Definitely will be interesting to watch, but this is the guy that started it all. Travis Hunter last year was just electric. He did absolutely everything on the football field for them. They played about 150 snaps a game or something crazy. And it is insane that he was able to do that. That is not a normal thing. He is not a normal human, to be totally honest with you. This guy is a different type of athlete, and even guys like Caleb Downs and Will Johnson, who are among the best athletes in the entire country, they're not Travis Hunter, I'll be totally honest. This guy is just different in every possible way. But let's get to Caleb Downs and talk about what his coaches had to say about it. Ryan Day did not rule out the idea of him possibly moving over to running back in 2024. He is participating in position meetings leading up to fall camp, so it'll be really interesting. Ryan Day said it was a part of recruiting him during that portal period where we'll give you that chance to possibly get on the field as a running back, and it's going to be really weird to watch that happen because this is something that's kind of been happening a little bit more, but we could just be seeing Caleb Downs getting a handoff from Will Howard at some point this year, and I, for one, am really conflicted about that idea. So I talked about it last week when we talked about Will Johnson, where I really like the idea of guys playing both ways. It's a very, very fun thing. It shows you who the just elite athletes among elite athletes are in college football. It shows you the guys that have the ability to play both ways, have the, stamina, which is just absurd in and of itself, to play both ways, and it's a really, really fun thing to see. Let's just be totally honest. Some of us turned on Colorado games even when we didn't much care because that guy was playing, because he is just absolutely incredible. So Caleb Downs has that athletic ability. He is absolutely insane, can do just remarkable things on the football field, but the reality is this doesn't make much sense from a football perspective. This running back room, as we just talked about, is just absurd. Between, Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins and a guy like James Peoples coming in as a freshman, there's no football reason that you would need Caleb Downs to be running the ball. All that being said, I don't much care. I really want to see this guy on the offensive side of the football, I'll be totally honest. I think Caleb Downs has a chance to be a top 5 draft pick in 2026. He can do just remarkable things. He would be a first-round pick if he left this year, if he was able to leave this year. But the reality is he's going to be a safety at the next level. It probably wouldn't be the best idea to put him back at running back and possibly risk him getting injured and dropping his draft stock just a little bit. I still want to see this happen very badly, and I want to do it for a number of different reasons. But the main one is there have been a number of seasons, at least from my point of view, maybe some other people have some other opinions about this, but there have been a number of seasons where the best player in the country, or at least a player that deserves to get an invite to New York, was left off that list or didn't win the Heisman because they're a defensive player, and offense is what people care about. It's usually just who's the quarterback of the best offense in the country that wins a lot of games. Throw them the trophy, and that's the end of the day. But sometimes there are better players in college football. And sometimes those players don't show up on stat sheets quite as much, although Caleb Downs does his best to do it. I just think if this is what needs to happen to get some defensive players the recognition that they likely deserve as just ridiculous athletes and maybe the best player on the team, I would Yeah, I'd make the argument that Caleb Downs is the best player on Ohio State. I think JTT would have an argument there, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, and Emeka Egbuka, but I would make the argument that this is the kid. And I think Caleb Downs doesn't necessarily need to be on the field. There's no football reason for it, but at the end of the day, if he just comes in on goal line plays and just racks up touchdowns because he is an absolute bowling ball of a kid, I would have no problem with that. I think it would be a very, very fun thing to watch. And frankly, if it means that Caleb Downs, who I have said time and again is, in my opinion, the best player in the country, if it means he gets recognized that way, I'm all good. That sounds fine with me. But obviously, don't want to put him in in harm's way by any means. I don't necessarily expect this to happen, but I like the energy nonetheless. But I do want to get to a couple other players that I think I would love to see possibly make that leap to the next, or make that leap to be a two-way player. I think that's something that I'd love to see kind of across the country just a little bit more. But I had a couple of guys that I wanted to break down. Obviously, we talked about Will Johnson. That's definitely someone that not only is it someone that I'd love to see play wide receiver just because of the athletic ability, Michigan might need him at wide receiver. They don't necessarily have a ton of proven guys, and if you need a spark plug at some point, I would not be surprised. I would be less surprised if Will Johnson made the jump than Caleb Downs just because of the need at the position. But it'll be really interesting to see what he does. I'm very, very excited to see if he possibly makes his way over to the offensive side. But the other guy we talked about yesterday, Nick Harbor, is one of the best athlete in the country. I'm going to say that with my chest at this point because this dude is absolutely insane. Was going to the Olympic trials for track, but decided to stay back, is back with the Gamecock football team, and he's going to do incredible things this year, but he's going to do them probably at wide receiver, almost exclusively at wide receiver, but at some point, I would love to see this kid at edge and wide receiver. If I could turn off injuries and fatigue and just let this kid play, I would. And it's likely something I will do on College Football 25 when it comes out because this kid is just really, really fun. Edge rusher is not necessarily a position where you can flip back and forth too much and play a ton of snaps, but the reality is I would love to see this kid on the field as much as possible, and it would be awesome to see if he could possibly pull it off, be an edge rusher and then turn right around and catch a 60-yard pass downfield. So it would be awesome to watch that. That kid's athleticism is just ridiculous, to be totally honest. I misordered these a little bit, but Malachi Starks is the next one. He's someone that genuinely, I think you could put him anywhere on the field and he would make an impact. I think you could snap him the ball in Wildcat and he would make something happen with his legs. The dude just is an outright football player. He does things on the football field that make my jaw drop. If you watch that Oregon game and you saw that catch, I'm sure it made your jaw drop. The dude has ball skills that might be the best in the country in terms of safeties and just can do really remarkable things. So absolutely love this kid. I think if you put him at wide receiver, just throw up a jump ball and let him go get it because he's going to go get it. The dude is just absolutely incredible and definitely someone I would love to see play both ways at some point. Probably won't happen. He's going to be, one of the probably the top safety off the board next year, but I would love to see it nonetheless. Then you have Abdul Carter, a guy that, honestly, this is a personal favorite. I think this would just be really, really cool. He's obviously not necessarily running back size. He is definitely bigger than that. And he is definitely not necessarily going to be a guy that you're going to put in just normally, but a goal line package with Abdul Carter would be something to watch. I'll just put it that way. Definitely something that I would love to see, and it would just be incredible because this dude's athleticism speaks for itself, but seeing him just absolutely pound the rock into the goal line would just be awesome to watch. I'll be totally honest with you. So that one's definitely not going to happen. I'll put my chest behind that one, but I would absolutely love to see it. And then the final one is also fan fiction, but Tyler Booker is one of the best athletes on the entire offensive line of really any offensive line across the entire country. This guy is just ridiculously athletic for an offensive guard and can absolutely move people. So flip him around, make him a nose tackle, and he'll move people. I can almost promise you that. The guy is absolutely incredible, elite athlete. I think he could play really any position across the offensive line and maybe across the defensive line too. The dude is absolutely insane, so would love to see it. It's not going to happen, I'll be totally honest with you, but Caleb Downs is one that is really interesting because he has the ability to be that two-way player. There's no two ways about that. He absolutely can be the guy that makes noise on the defensive side of the ball and then comes in periodically to play running back. I just don't see the necessary need for him to do that for Ohio State. I think Nick Harbor would be incredible to watch. Carter Starks and Tyler Booker, we're not going to see on the other side of the ball, just be totally honest with you guys, but that would be incredible nonetheless. I don't know if this is going to be the year of the two-way player, but I think this is kind of a sign of what's to come, sort of. I think there's going to be more and more players that are going to start pushing for this. They see what Travis Hunter is capable of doing and say, I'm capable of doing that. I want to do that. So I would not be surprised at all if people started pushing themselves a little bit more in that direction, and it'll be really interesting to see. So some of these players, I think, you likely won't see Caleb Downs on the offensive side of the ball too much. Maybe it's a package here and there. Maybe the same thing for Will Johnson. Travis Hunter's going to do his thing. I'm not worried about him. But I don't necessarily think there's, Travis Hunter type guys all over the place. I think there's incredible athletes, but Travis Hunter is a different type of athlete. So I would love to see it. I'll be totally honest. This is something that I very much wanted to see for quite some time in college football. So would love to see some of these guys make that leap. But in terms of actual what it makes in terms of football sense, I don't necessarily see it too much for any of the guys. But at the end of the day, I don't much care. I just want to see these guys on the football field. So would love to see that. Definitely would be an interesting thing to watch. But as of right now, we have the best two-way player that I've ever seen in Travis Hunter. So you got to love that. But we're going to take our third break here, and when we come back, we're going to get back to our stock up, stock down segment. We're going to get into the Big 12 today and break down two teams that I feel really good about going into the next 3 to 5 years, and then teams I feel not so good about when we're going into the next 3 to 5 years. So we'll break that down right after this, so stick with us.